And honestly, Wendy, I'm not joking. Every single brief or every single description of somebody's wedding from a bride and groom is so different. Don't forget in Europe also, and I don't mean to be hard on Europe, but European prices are being pushed up a lot because the super high net worth are going into these venues to have holidays. We're going to take them on a journey. It's going to make them feel like, oh, I'm not sure whether we should do that. I don't think the guests will like that. Margie, are you sure? Like, we've never done that before. Well, that's the whole
Yeah.
point.
Hello, Raj. I am obviously a very long time fan, follower, friend, and colleague of yours. Very excited to have you here. I think that the world is going to be very enlightened by your ability to understand the complexity of weddings and events, as well as the art and finessing the whole idea of the experience. I think that you are a connoisseur when it comes to luxury events, in particular, the ultra high net worth clients that come to you for something new. I think that we can all say we want something new, but it does really take a certain type of passion and person to execute on what that new feeling is, and being able to bring to life the most extraordinary events that we've seen you work on over the past, what is it now? How long have you been in the industry?
So I think we were working this out. We started around 1991 as like an event planner, but before that we did helium-filled balloons, but it's a long story.
Incredible. So 1991. So I can imagine the evolution of weddings and events in your lifetime, going from doing what I'm sure was local events to now luxury events, destination, multi-day experiences. It's phenomenal that you've been in this industry for this amount of time. Raj is quite a unique person, and Silverfox Events, whilst established in the UK, works on luxury events, in particular South Asian weddings and events, bringing that European flair and experience to life, both locally and abroad. You've been in the events industry for over 30 years. Can you take us back to the beginning and share what drew you to events and how your role has evolved from planner to what you now call as an event architect?
Wow, that's a massive question. I have to go back to card shops when I was a kid because my mum used to have card shops, and we had the most amazing card shops. They're called Schwazier Cards, and we were in a very predominant sort of Jewish and white area as Indian people. And then from our card shops, mum developed like helium-filled balloons. And that's when we realized that there was a gift. It's like a gift that you could give, like a balloon with a card. From there, we realized that helium-filled balloons would be used on weddings. So then we started doing English and Jewish weddings. We were doing probably 11 weddings a weekend at one point. Then we moved on into using those helium-filled balloons into Asian weddings, because instead of doing 5 tables or 11 tables for a British wedding, an Indian wedding would have 50 tables. So we weren't bothered that we were Indian and going into the Indian market. We were bothered that there was 50 tables there to decorate and not 10. And that was it. Simple mathematics, economics. My mum was really clever. To really cut a long story short, the hotels were really struggling with Asian weddings at the time. We then went in as a management team and we said, look, we can help you run these Asian weddings, although we didn't have a clue. And then we started running some of these Asian weddings. So 1991, we set up Pile Function Organizers. So my mum was probably the first South Asian wedding planner worldwide, I would have thought. So she had Pile Function Organizers, and then we listed all the things that we could do for a wedding, like the mandap and this and that, and the dolly. And we started looking after these hotels because they couldn't control these Asian weddings. We then went to 1994, and then Leeds, Liverpool and Manchester, which is like the north of England. We basically had 50 hotel contracts, and you weren't allowed to book an Asian wedding unless you went through Payal Function Organizers. So we were the nominated supplier for 50 hotels, the Hiltons, the Marriotts. I then started lecturing to the Marriott cluster groups to explain to them how to do Asian weddings. How do we get £5,000 on a Sunday? Like, how do we do that? And we have no costs. I said, I can show you how. That's how we started our process. So we became consultants to hotels in the early 1990s, 1994. That whole evolution of our Asian market went because we kept pushing. We wanted to become the Western version of an Asian operator. All our Asian events were very cultural and had lots of intricacies with traditions. So we were elevating our Asian weddings to a Western society. So we were blending the two things. I was born and bred in England. My parents are born and bred in Africa, although they're from India. But when you put the two things together, the Eastern culture of Indian and the Western upbringing that I've had, that's what Payal was all about. Around 2005, we realized that the food was really letting us down. So catering was a bit of a mission. And we kept using these little restaurants to do outdoor catering. And then we realized that there was Bengalis and Sikhs and Gujaratis and Punjabis and like South Indians and all this different food. There wasn't one caterer that did all. So
Oh,
we decided to build, a £500,000 production unit in 2005, one of its kind again in the UK, to do a multicultural catering operation. So Payal then became an event planning catering business. And 2015 was a very pinnacle point for us, where my mum continued with the Payal brand, and me and Sheetal, I had my first TV show called The Big Fat Asian Wedding on Channel 4. And that's when me and Sheetal decided that we've done event planning, we've done catering, let's go back to what we love. We loved putting the event together. We loved the architecture of the event, the entertainment, the lighting, the buzz, the vibe, the fun. So that's when we set up Silverfox Events in 2015. The minute we did that, it was destination. First inquiry, Ibiza. Second inquiry, Tuscany. Third inquiry, Florence. It was like Capri. Then we were going to Goa. Then it exploded in 2014, our destination market. So we stayed in Europe then, really, from 2014-15 to COVID-19 shut down everywhere. Pile shut down, Silverfox is shut down. We regroup, and then we basically started again in 2021 September, going on to 2022 with the Silverfox brand. We offloaded the Payal brand in 2019 because unfortunately my mum passed away in 2017. So it was a little bit of a thing there, yeah. So we couldn't control both. So we offloaded the Payal brand to a very close friend of ours who absolutely loved my mum, liked my mum, and he continued with that brand, and he still does. Does a great job with it. So luckily we bounced back in 2022. We did have a Dubai wedding in 2019, which was fabulous. That brought a load of European people over, and we just smashed this event. And this year, I'm so excited for Silverfox to be entering the GCC and just giving the European magic that we've been doing for so many years everywhere else.
I did not know the legacy that you're carrying, especially from your mother, your late mother, and the experience and the fact that you were consulting to venues in 1994 about Asian weddings. I mean, that in itself is extraordinary, pioneering that in the UK and largely in Europe as an event architect. It's no wonder you're in the position that you're in now.
It's only the
My next question is, you often describe yourself as more than a planner, a consultant, strategist, and architect. What does that actually mean in practice for your clients?
I've just learned so much and been in so many different scenarios with so many different cultures. And I just feel as if I've got a whole host of knowledge. But when I sit with a client and listen to their brief, and honestly, Wendy, I'm not joking, every single brief or every single description of somebody's wedding from a bride and groom is so different. It's like DNA, like it's totally different. It matches them because a combination of two people coming together just resatnavs everything.
Yeah.
Whatever they feel, you've got all these things whizzing around your head, and they're not just one area. It's the total jigsaw puzzle. And I keep talking about this jigsaw puzzle. It's getting the right pieces in, and then you complete that puzzle for them. They've got the puzzle in their head, but it's for us to get the pieces and put them together.
What I'm hearing is that you're given the ingredients, then you have to create the recipe. And
Yeah.
what the result of that will be, which is the amazing sensory experiences that you create through taste and
Yeah.
smell and see and, touch and all of these wonderful things that you bring to life, is a different result for each client.
Yeah, different result every time. So it's
Yeah.
almost like another thing where they can see the finished product plated, and then it's for you to deconstruct that dish, then go and find
Yes.
the ingredients and then put it together for them to get. They can see the end product, but they don't know how to get there. They say, well, you sort that out.
I think that's really important because whilst you are a cultural expert, culture doesn't just mean your country of origin or the food that you eat. There are so many different elements that are a reflection of your culture. We often um, in my background, talk about the fact that the Australian Lebanese is very different to the French Lebanese, who are very different to the Brazilian Lebanese, right? So even though we are DNA-wise similar, in fact, what we appreciate and what we look for in our celebrations is entirely different. We speak about the culture of background, which you are an absolute connoisseur, in particular on Asian fusion weddings and events, and of course the European market, and bringing in that element of luxury. But how do you tap into the soul? How do you tap into the personality? How do you build that rapport and actually have them share with you? Because these are $2 million plus events. You're working on extraordinary milestones.
So we're missing one thing, and one thing is background and character. Although you have cultural differences or a cultural upbringing, you also have a character. Are you very methodical in the way you do things? Have you been brought up with an artist? Was your mum an artist, and did you have arty things around you and abstract art and weird colors? Like, what is your character? Where have you personally come from? Just take you as a human being, as a soul. Your soul has its own character. Then you mix that with the second soul who love each other, but two souls might love each other, but they might not agree on a lot of things. We're
Yes.
creating this thing that they need to have this celebration and this wedding to put these two souls together. It's really complicated, but people need to read into that character also, not just where they come from. I'm an Indian. I have the most complicated background. So I'm born and bred in Manchester, which surprises a lot of people. Yes, I'm a Mancunian, and I am very proud of being a Northern England person. I might have Claridge's blood running through me, but I am a Manc at the end of the day. My mum and dad and their grandparents were born in Nairobi in Africa. Their grandparents were born in Porbandar in Gujarat in India. So we've got 3 generations of 3 different countries coming into England. What do you think goes through my head? I honestly feel is that I'm a British man with brown skin. And I know it sounds really crazy, but I used to look in the mirror as a kid and say, why have I got brown skin? Because of the racism I used to get. Okay. So I feel British totally inside, but I have brown skin. Those cultural things that go through my head are the way I am now looking at things and doing things are very different, but someone needs to understand that from me when I'm getting married and think, okay, he's British. He likes his way. He's British. He likes to sit at Claridge's and have a nice cup of tea. But you know what? He loves Krishna and he needs this and he needs a oven and he needs a mandap.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, that's what he's going through his head.
Like you said, a fusion of souls, but then also it's a celebration of how they want to be able to bring that to life as a reflection of these two people coming together, right? Looking at anything from, and I'm going to go straight into the delivery of the type of weddings that you've done globally. How do you decide which project to take on? And what differentiates a Silverfox event from anything else in the market?
What projects we take on. Okay, so we've obviously seen and done a lot, and we've really taken that on board, and all this information's in our head. But now, when we want to put a project together, first of all, we don't want to copy and paste. Second of all, there are some incredible planners out there. I say planners, but wedding planners are not just planners. They're whole architects. They put the whole thing together and they do these fantastic jobs. So how do we differentiate what Silverfox does? So we get a client and we listen to that brief. We listen to their souls and we think of what we would like to put together. But those individual clients need to be on our train. We're going to take them on a journey, which is going to be a little bit uncomfortable. It's going to make them feel like, oh, I'm not sure whether we should do that. I don't think the guests will like that. Raj, are you sure? We've never done that before. Well, that's the whole
Yeah.
point. So we're going to take these people on a journey where they're just going to go off piece a little bit. Me and Sheetal, to be honest, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's absolutely true. From when we started in 1991, 92, we are 10 years ahead of events and the way we see events and the way we see lighting and the way that we see decor and the table shapes. But if we put what we realized in the 2000s when we were putting these ideas forward, they were too adventurous for the clients. We're like, no. You're a bit out of the box. I don't think you'll deliver on that. You're a bit of a nutter. Off you go. So now we've toned it down. So me and Sheetal are like, no, let's not go 10 years. Let's just go 2 or 3. this is what we're going to do for you, but these are the things that you have to do for me. When we have that initial interview and we're chatting, we look at the bride and groom and think, are they Silverfox clients and will they come on this journey with us? And if they're not, then there's a million planners that can do
Yeah.
that. It's just talking to the client, because there's no point me and Sheetal talking to a customer and then giving them wacky ideas and putting all that energy into how these things are going to look when they're really not interested. They're like, Raj, no, we just wanted a sit down, 3-course dinner. We don't need chefs to come out and smash chocolate balls, which are made out of eggs. Raj, that's not for us. Okay, so fine, no problem. So it's really finding the right customer for us or the right client for
Yeah.
us.
I think that when it comes to the way that the industry is moving and shifting is that there are two types of couples. There are the ones who are, I just want the 3-course, meal and I just want to be able to sit down. But then the ones who are really thinking outside of the box and those who are getting married in Europe and across the GCC and UAE, which we mentioned earlier, why would they come to you? What is it that you feel like from that perspective you want to offer that market?
Yeah, so we looked at the Middle East from 2018. We researched it. 2019, we pulled off a spectacular event with the Armani group. But every single artist that was on that event was European. And we realized at that point that what we've been doing in Europe for many, many years was very, very different of the offerings that we were getting in the Middle East. So then we were like, are you sure we can't find entertainers that will deliver like we deliver? Are you sure we can't find florists that do? But the set designs are slightly different. Now, this is not saying this is better. What I'm trying to say to you is it's just a bit different. The European delivery of an event, everything about a European event is very, very different to when you bring in that to the Middle East. And the events that I saw in the Middle East and the suppliers that have developed their ecosystem around the events that are consistently being foot flowed, it's no one's fault as such. It's just that it's missing a new dimension of events in that area. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's going to suit everybody, but I definitely know 100% that what Europe offers to the Middle East is not there right now.
Yeah, no, and I think that when it comes to the Middle East, they're always looking for something new. I mean, in Dubai, the tallest tower and the largest building and the highest water fountain and all of these kinds of things. And they, like to be first to market and having different perspectives. And I do believe that that European flair and that European touch will definitely bring something new and fresh to market. You have spent some time in the Middle East over the past year in particular, presenting at conferences and events. What's your feedback and your take on the market from a consultative perspective? Because as I just mentioned, there are hotels popping up, and new launches and new activations taking place.
It's like sucking eggs. I go and see these hoteliers and they're sat in their bubble. If I look at consulting with hotels, and I look at the ultra high net worth market. And again, I come back to the same thing. The first line was like, they're not all the same. And I talked to you about their character and I've talked to you about their culture and where they've come from. So when these inquiries come into these hotel groups, I can genuinely, because of the 35 years I've had in this industry, sort of work out very quickly what we need to pitch and what needs to go forward to take the sale forward. A hotel group has amazing teams of people because it's a mechanical machine which runs correctly. And I reckon 5 to 10% of that mechanical machine has a creativity area and a knowledgeable area, which is then used on an inquiry coming into a hotel. But that particular creativity area and that knowledgeable area that they have is small in comparison to the rest of it. They can't spend time on there. There isn't enough people in the industry who've spent the 30 years knowing that knowledge. So what we're saying to them is that why don't you use our 30 years of knowledge when an inquiry comes into your whole mechanical system? We will tag team with your creative team and your salespeople there, teach them how that inquiry has come in and also what that inquiry is wanting to hear. And that's really what I'm trying to say to hotels. We've got the knowledge, we understand it because we've done the 35 years of graft and we've been through all the different mistakes and all the problems. Where you don't have the time and the knowledge to put that effort into those people, and you would never employ them as individuals in your company because it's not worth for you to do that. But tag teaming up a little bit and collaborating I think is the best way forward for them.
So there's the foundational side of things, which is obviously understanding how to deliver to these markets and knowing what couples are looking for. And that IP that you carry, I think that a lot of hotels, a lot of venues definitely want to tap into. When it comes to tourism as well, of course, all of the different regions and the markets that you've worked in, your understanding of what the offering is in France versus in Italy versus in the Middle East, I also think is very important. Couples will come to you and potentially want you to make the choice. Where do we go for this wedding? Where can we create this experience? And essentially you're curating the event, but you may also potentially be curating the destination. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important to get the right destination for the right family. I love Europe. I think it has a lot to offer. I still think there's places in Europe that have not been tapped into. There are some places like Montenegro, which are just so cool for the right event, but they don't suit certain events. There isn't a hotel in Europe that has 150 bedrooms, for example, to put an Asian wedding into. I might be wrong, so please all don't shoot me down. But around about Spain, Italy, France, Greece, they all have around about, they might have 150, but we don't have a hotel that say accommodates 200 bedrooms where I can have 400 people in a destination, in a resort in Europe. We have to come out of that area, or you have to drop your numbers, or we have to split our guests up. 100 people there, 80 people there, 40 people there. So the magic of a destination event, it doesn't work for me. I want to put everybody in my HQ. I want to have a communal hospitality area. I want the Masi or the auntie from the in-laws to meet the uncle from the outlaws, and they all have a chat and they have a cup of tea in the morning and they talk about their cultural differences and where they grew up in Africa or India or Zimbabwe or whatever. That's the magic. You look at the GCC, all of a sudden you've got a shed load of bedrooms. You've got wacky venues because all our families are everywhere. They're either in Canada or Australia or blah, 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 So that connection is there. The weather is there. The venues are there. You have creative minds like us. They back on the venue itself and say, wow, we're at the Opera Garnier and yeah, but we've split in 4 or 5 different hotels and da 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 da. Where I'm saying, come with me. Let's have a look at this package instead. They've got whatever vision you want. If you want a Santorini or you want a backdrop of a castle or you want, a resort beach wedding, whatever you want is there. And then let us elevate that.
Because the things with destination weddings, a lot of this is logistics and ensuring that the magic of all of these in-between moments can take place with your guests bumping into each other in the lobby or at breakfast or whatever it is, right? And it's that sense of community that you can create around these types of large-scale weddings, which can take place in the Middle East, and the hotels and venues are purpose-built for larger scale events.
Still, when people have 50 to 70 guests at their wedding or 100 guests, the Middle East offers a tremendous amount of venues for them also. But you
Yeah.
have the luxury of dipping into Europe and maybe dipping into the Middle East or going over to Bali or going into Singapore. You can go wherever you want with that number of guests up to 150. As soon as you
Yes.
start getting to 250, 300, you're limited. As you're limited, then you may as well look in an area where you're not limited. Okay, you're not stuck on certain things. So the GCC offers weddings for all cultures, creeds, and numbers, has the capacity of having larger venues also, for bigger numbers. Don't forget in Europe also, and I don't mean to be hard on Europe, but European prices are being pushed up a lot. So the buyouts are a lot more expensive now in Europe, where they used to be post-COVID. The bedroom rates are going up and up and up because the super high net worth are going into these venues to have holidays. But because of the volume and the capacities that we have in the GCC,
I'm going to ask specifically around hotel groups and even tourism boards and what role you see governments playing within the destination market and within this wedding economy that you're referring to, because understanding those coming from the US versus from Europe versus from Asia and wanting to tap into different markets, it's something that we obviously, work very hard on educating the destination tourism boards from a media perspective. What do you have to say to that?
I did hear this somewhere. I'm sorry to say it, but the Brits are very good or one of the best at organizing events. I don't know where I've heard that or where. I don't know if our training is like that, but the way we put events together in the UK and the way the Europeans do, and I'm not saying that the Middle East or those countries don't put events together, but we put them together maybe slightly differently. I think the service is again a bit more Western rather than Eastern. So I just feel again with the tourism boards, I think it's very simple that there is a whole wide world out there, and you've been very much influenced by your area and what's been happening in your area, and you wanted to attract area like from Australia, from America coming in. And all I'm saying to you guys is just keep your eyes open a little bit. And I've told you before, every single bride and groom or every single person wanting an event is not the same. So it's a matter of really learning about the world and how the world are doing events. And because we're in a very privileged position after so many years of trade, where we've done stuff in Bali and then we've done stuff in like England and Europe, that we really understand the different ways and thinking on an event. I just feel as if that knowledge is missing a little bit. They want to drive traffic. They really want to become world leaders in their destination wedding plan. I get it, but they really need to understand the sort of the rule book for the other countries as well coming in.
A lot of the tourism boards have picked up on the fact that destination weddings should be a focus. Many don't know really where to start. Some have an idea because organically they've been receiving inquiries and they can see the uptake on weddings because of the nature of the hotels and venues and all of the service providers that are on the ground. But like you said, if you want to be a global hub for destination weddings and you want to be leading and you want to be attracting different couples from different parts of the world, you really do need somebody with a global lens that has worked in different markets and understands how they operate. I'm going to talk to your point about the Brits being some of the best in the world. I think it's because of the level of expectations of the client. People are coming, to the Queen's England, particularly those who are working within the luxury space. There is a level of expectation that, well, if I'm going to be spending £2,000 at a hotel, I better be getting X, Y, and Z right. Hotels and venues and tourism boards, please, we beg you to learn and understand what is actually involved in these types of markets from a cultural perspective, from a cuisine perspective, from a ceremony perspective. I'm going to speak from personal experience. I was working with a venue and they said, aren't Pakistani weddings and Indian weddings the same? And I said,
Yeah.
absolutely not. And don't ever say that to one of a client. Right? You often speak about the five senses and creating multi-sensory journeys. Can you unpack that and describe what a Raj Samaya guest experience feels like from start to finish?
So I think I learned this from doing TV shows recently when we did the BBC show, The Ultimate Wedding Planner, where I was a judge. And then we had to do these baby weddings with these amazing little planners. And then they had to build them. And then I taught them how I look at an event. And I think it developed there, to be honest. And that's where I came up with the events architect label. I think realistically, I would put it down to creating a movie. And what I started teaching is sort of saying to them, let's look at scene one. That could be the valet and the guest arrival, or that could be going into the drinks reception area. We need to think about that scene, how it's set, how it looks when they first walk in. The whole point of these events is to make sure that the guest experience is the highest possible attention that you can get from a guest as possible. Weddings are boring. We've been elevating them and making them better. And the focus has always been on the bride and groom, that they've had the best day. But the 100 guests around them have had the most boringest day. It's a formality for them to attend these weddings. Now we're saying, guys, no, come to these weddings. They're fun. Like, you meet new people. We'll make sure that you have interaction and you're going to see some wicked stuff. So when they walk into that drinks reception area, what are we looking at, first of all? What are we listening to? Then you really start falling into the really cool senses, like smell. Let's really talk about smell, okay? And how that really affects someone's like sensory experience when they walk into a room. Then you look at taste and touch. The best way is like emotional catering, where they touch the stick or they touch something and then they put it in their mouth. And again, you're looking at it and maybe there's some sound around it. So having those beautiful Singapore slings on a bar, like, what do the bartenders look like? Like, The whole thing is a movie scene to me. Now let's look at the architecture. We don't want to squash them in a small room. No, we want to make sure the food and beverage is absolutely on point. We want to make sure when they walk through and they give their coat to somebody, it's gone. Where they give their gift to somebody, it's taken away. They're invited into this beautiful environment. We're thinking, consistently thinking and thinking. Temperature of the room. Is it AC? Is it heating? I've had both. That's just one scene. Then you do the reveal. Okay, the guests walk into this dining experience. What does that look like? When they sit down again, what are they listening to? What are they going to taste? What wines are being poured? How does the water look? There is a billion details again, just in scene 2 alone. Okay, they all seat. Then we call the bride and groom in. How does that happen? I'm not just thinking about the bride and groom making this entrance. I'm also thinking about the guests that are at the back of the room who've got the shit seats that don't have shit seats because I've raised them. So everybody has a perfect seat in this auditorium. And I've thought about Mr. Z-lister sat on the back seat over there and how he's going to feel, because I want him to walk away from that wedding and say, that was amazing. I don't know what happened. I went from scene to scene and I came out and I wish it didn't end. But I had the best
Yeah.
time and it went like that.
I think from that perspective and in the trend world that we live in and, the tech that we use and all of the digital touch points that we need to have as business owners, what you're describing is very high touch. It's very emotional. It's incredibly service oriented. How do you see the future of weddings?
I honestly feel it's going to take a bit of a whole circle where I don't think these weddings are going to be about the gram. Everything is about taking pictures. How does my wedding look on the gram? I really love quiet luxury part of our game. And I think people, they've come off the social media areas and they've realized that these events, they're for the bride and groom and for where the guests are family members or friends. And it's about going back to basics. It's a celebration about two souls unifying and becoming one. So I think they're going to go back and we're going to go to these really quiet, silent luxury events, which could be large, but they're silent or they're quiet in the sense that they're not put all over the gram and they're not designed for the gram. This will carry
You're
on for
not
5 years.
designed for the gram.
For
Yes,
example,
yes.
we used to own a restaurant. It was a gorgeous restaurant and we had the most amazing staircase. The wallpaper was £15,000 from an artist in India. We knew every influencer, every person going to our restaurant would take that picture and put it on the gram and people would go and eat in our restaurant or want the picture on the staircase. We're doing this on events. We're having pieces of areas which they want people to recognize their event worldwide. I think there are people that continue doing that, but I think the super high net worth will slowly move away from that area, go into this quiet, silent luxury and go within and concentrate on what really matters.
We've seen that take place in fashion. I think that so many people, they're looking under the hood. They want to know where these products are being made, why they're being made,
Yeah.
why they're being designed that way. They want to have a connection with something that they're wearing. And imagine if that's like a $3,000 handbag versus a $3 million wedding. Of course, they're going to want it custom built and designed for them and curated in a way that's going to make everyone comfortable, especially when it comes to ultra high net worth weddings where people are coming from all over the world, as you said. Just want to reflect on everything that we've discussed today because there's so much in here around consultancy, experience, around couples, around character. I think that was such a strong and poignant talking point from you. Character and culture. The five senses, I think, was an incredible talking point. Quiet luxury. Anyone, if it's a couple or a business or a tourism board or a venue, I think everyone has something to take away from this incredible conversation. My final question to you, if you could give one piece of advice to planners or venues who want to work at the $2 million plus event level, what would that be?
If I am a person who's having a 50th birthday party, I want to spend $2 million on my party, or I am a groom, I'm a billionaire, so I want a beautiful wedding because I'm marrying the love of my life. There are a few things there I'll be looking at straight away. If I'm going to approach a planner, it's got to be probably from a reference. To get into that referral market is that they need experience and they need validation from the marketplace to get them up to that particular step on that ladder to be even recognized for that billionaire to give you a call So then what I was thinking about was for me to be a baby planner, maybe 10 years old, and I want to reach that state of that ladder. And we've been talking about this, Wendy, for years, is collaboration. Unless you collaborate and move up the ladder and learn why people like Silverfox Events have popped into the 7-digit number, you have to elevate your business. You doing it on your own will take you forever, like it took me forever. You collaborating with me and me teaching you or helping you or giving you some confidence and your client to say, this is our, partner in crime. This is the person that's going to help us. This is one who's going to take us through. You will get that inquiry and you will elevate. You will not only elevate, you will start learning. So I do feel for planners, if you want to get into that marketplace, I would really pick on some amazing planners around the world, make them your mentors, do some collaborations with them, and get yourselves in that area. And people like myself, and there are hundreds like me out there because I've met them, especially at the DWS in Dubai. I met some incredible planners who are so open hearted to give, and give that they will help you. Do not be shy to call somebody. For venues, I think collaborating with the right partners and understanding the market, understanding an event with wealth, how the mechanics of that work. A lot of venues, and I keep arguing with them, don't have a list of planners to recommend. I don't know why. They'll have a caterer, they'll have a lighting guy, they'll have a florist. Man, put a planner on the list. Look around the world and what planners do you want to be associated to? What business do you want to drive in?
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, it's about creating that win-win scenario with venues. I mean, you do have the venue groups that think that they can do it in-house. I think that's what we're referring to here. It's being very mindful of the fact that do what you do best in-house and what you're being paid for. What will end up happening is your staff will end up doing things that are outside of their remit, and you will have clients who have that expectation because you haven't referred a planner. You've told them they probably don't need one. And you're going to end up in a situation where, had you had a step of approval from the planner, a far better managed event with an entire team being managed by the planner, as opposed to your venue manager having to do that work. Having that, again, affiliation with globally renowned planners, designers, event architects, of course, like yourself, who come in and actually you can learn from through that process as well. I want to give you a quick opportunity to talk about also, with the global lens that you have, what it's been like working with Wedded Wonderland, actually.
My ambition is to have, an SF office, maybe like New York, Singapore, and then Dubai, and then England, and then Paris. And we've got 2 or 3 of those already. When I was on the internet and on social media, and I was saying, how does Silverfox become global? What marketing company, what tool, who do I talk to who trades across the planet? It was 11:22 p.m. in bed, scrolling through the internet, and I found this lady called Wendy, and I started listening to more of her stories and watching some YouTube clips. And then an hour and a half later of listening to you on what you are doing and where my vision was, I was like, oh my God, we need to get married. And that's when I DM you so kindly. You came back to me instantly. And that's where our relationship started. Wendy, there aren't any people, I don't think. There might be a few, I very much doubt it, that have the same vision as that what I'm going through, which you've already achieved globally. There isn't a platform like it. The Wedded Wonderland is a global player. The quicker people start realizing, and instead of being objected towards the network and how we can collaborate and work worldwide, the quicker you will elevate your business, Wendy, with Wedded. It's really easy.
I really appreciate that. And I think that what you've achieved in the UK and from the UK to the world, Silverfox Events, has been extraordinary. There are very few people, I can literally count on one hand, that actually understand this market where West meets East. Things that we've learned here today, in why you are who you are, right? We are very excited to see what comes next for you, Raj, and your entire team.
And I thank you for being who you are and all the effort and time and sacrifices you put into building what you've built also. It's just 2 great people who have really worked hard in what they want to do. We're both very passionate about how we deliver our products.
Absolutely. And that's what, as large as the world is, when it comes to weddings and when it comes to luxury and when it comes to delivery of service, there are people around the world like Raj who can really pull things together and make magic happen. And we're very excited to continue working with you. Thank you so much for your time,
No,
Raj.
thank you.